Well, hello, everybody. This is Catherine Toon, and welcome to the Brother Henry and You show. Brother Henry, it is an honor to co host today. We have a really fascinating topic, and that is the topic of gaslighting. I don't know how many of you have heard the term of gaslighting, but it is a real phenomenon that is recognized in the psychological communities, and many people have suffered from it. And there's things that you can do about it. So, this is going to be part one in a three-part series. So, I hope you take the opportunity to glean from all three because there's really valuable information. I guarantee you that if you've not suffered from this phenomenon, you know people that have. And as people who are lovely people called to love, we're also called to be free for ourselves and then also called to love and help set others free. And knowledge is power, and understanding these things that are going on is power. If this is powerful, and if this is you, there is freedom. And if this is someone else that you know, there is freedom. So let's dive in and unpack this. So today we're going to basically talk about gaslighting. What is it? Okay. And where did it come from? So I'm just going to read you sort of the psychological definitions, and then we're going to unpack it together. Okay. It says gaslighting is a form of psychological abuse where a person or group makes someone question their sanity, perception of reality, or memories. People experiencing gaslighting often feel confused, anxious, and unable to trust themselves. Okay. So it's psychological abuse, and it can happen with a person or a group of people, an institution that causes you to question yourself, question your sanity, your perception of reality, or your memories. And being questioned is good, but being manipulated to counter what you know to be true inside is incredibly unhealthy, right? God is in you, Christ is in you, and his spirit is one with you. And in that place of your oneness, God leads you into all truth. And he wired you to have a relationship with yourself so that you can discern things. You can discern is this a godly thing? Is this an evil thing? Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? We are still in a fallen world where evil things do happen, and we need to be able to function in a way that there's safety, there's peace, and there's freedom. Let me continue with some another ways of wording it that will help you get a handle on this for you or someone else. Gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation. Remember, that's a big word, manipulation, in which a person or group covertly, so a lot of times it's not obvious, but it's covert, sows seeds of doubt in a targeted individual or group. Okay, so it's sneaky, all right, making them question their own memory, perception, or judgment, often invoking in them cognitive dissonance and other changes, including low self esteem. Let me unpack what this cognitive dissonance is. It's a really good word. It's just kind of, hey, you're smart, you can get this. Cognitive dissonance. Cognitive just refers to your cognition, which is your mental processes, how you think. Okay, so how you think. And then dissonance, that means stuff does not match up. So on the inside, you're saying, this is wrong, this is freaky, but you're being told, no, this is good, and this is righteous, and this is could be God. That would be a form of spiritual abuse, right? So you inside you're saying, no, no, bad, bad. And then someone else is saying, no, this is love, or this is righteous or godly, or this is right. And so you're at war with yourself, you're at dissonance with yourself. So your mind is saying, your heart's saying one thing, the inner man is saying one thing, and your mind is saying another thing, and you're at war. That's why it's a, a nation divided against itself cannot stand, and so you just have a hard time standing. So that leads to that low self esteem. Okay, and then we'll unpack this a little more. It says using denial, misdirection, contradiction, and misinformation. Gaslighting involves attempts to destabilize the victim and delegitimizes the victim's beliefs. So inside you're saying, I believe that I should have my own personal space, and that, a trusted member of the family or a trusted person should honor me. And so if you're being manipulated in, say, with sexual abuse or emotional abuse, or to give your money, or to be manipulated to do things, and you're saying there's something wrong with this, but they're saying this is love, this is godly, right? You're being delegitimized, you're being undermined, right? You're being misdirected, contradicted, or given misinformation, okay, in order to accomplish someone else's agendas, right? Um, Instances can range from denial by the abuser, just flat out, no, didn't happen, right? So you remember something happening, no, that really happened, no, it didn't happen. It's like, but, right? And you just get that confusion, right? Um, Instances can range from the denial by an abuser that previous abusive incidences occurred, to belittling the victim's emotions or feelings. Well, that's stupid. Well, you always dramatize things. You always make things up. This is implanted in you by a counselor, right? You're just imagining things, right? To staging bizarre events by the abuser with the intention of disorienting the victim. Okay, so these are hefty. We're gonna be unpacking this in a lot more detail in terms of what it looks like in part 2. But let's talk about where the term gaslighting came from. Okay, so the term gaslighting can be traced back to a 1938 play. It was a British play, but it became sort of popularized in Hollywood with the film called Gaslight. You can actually see this movie, and it is brilliant at depicting this. It is so good. I really recommend it. I love this film. It's got Ingrid Bergman in there, who's like a phenomenal actress, and she's being gaslighted by her husband. And I'm not going to, you know, spoil the whole movie, but basically, her husband, who says he loves her, is up to nefarious activities, and so she's being told she's loved and all that kind of thing, and then he leaves her every night to do these nefarious activities. And when these nefarious activities happen, um, the gas light that was literally the lighting, because this is a period piece where lighting was done by gas, would dim, and she would hear noises, and she would think she's going crazy because she's hearing them in her own house, and she's like, something's going on, and she's trying to tell this to her husband, and he's saying she's crazy, she's imagining, she can't, trust her own feelings, and the more he's denying her reality, and then she starts to question herself, she thinks she's crazy, right? And it's this whole plot that he's manipulating and controlling her. He's gaslighting her to control her because of his agenda. And so I'm not going to tell you how the movie ends, but I really recommend you do it because you can see this unrolling. So this beautiful, sane, powerful woman who has so much to offer to the world is being belittled, and she becomes a smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller version of herself. She's questioning her own perceptions, like the light is dimming, but no, it's not really limming, so I'm crazy, right? And I'm hearing these noises, but these noises aren't really happening, but I'm hearing. And so she's in this cognitive dissonance, right? And she's literally being controlled by this person. No, you're crazy. You're, and he starts making it a personal attack. And, so her self-esteem starts to plummet. She starts to get fearful. She's also isolated. Also, a lot of times in gaslighting situations, the person is isolated because isolated people are easier to control, right? Because they don't have external connections, right? And they don't have people to validate them externally. No, you're really not crazy, right? She starts to hear noises and have the gaslight. So that was gaslighting. It's really fascinating, and start to question her reality. So her husband is, whose name is Gregory, convinces Paula that it's all inside her head, that she's really crazy, right? So that her own ability to perceive reality is not even present. So it does end happily. I'm always for happy endings. But it's a great kind of thriller movie, and it absolutely personifies and brings flesh to the concept of this type of psychological manipulation and abuse. Um, let's see. I'm trying to figure out how much I want to go into this next one. So, I'll dive in a little bit and we can pick it up next time. So, what does gaslighting look like? Right? We'll start some of that. So, it involves someone, there's various techniques that a person who gaslights another person uses. They may counter. That means a person questioning someone's memories or someone's perception. They may say things like, you never remember anything accurately, or are you sure? It's like, well, am I sure? Am I remembering? Am I making this up? Right? You have a bad memory, right? And if you tell people long enough, they start to believe it, particularly people in places of authority. We tend to believe that, right? So, for me personally, when I was growing up, we had incest, we had just serious, serious abuse. And when I finally confronted my abuser literally said, a counselor just put that in your head. And I'm like, uh, no, I don't think so. Until I got it really settled in myself, I would start to question myself. Well, maybe he did. Maybe I am making it all up. Right? A lot of times when you're with someone who gaslights, you feel crazy. Like you feel crazy. I mean, I finally recognize this phenomenon. It's like the crazy person is making me feel crazy. I'm not crazy, but I had to get enough healing and wholeness in myself so that could recognize, wait a second, that's not my issue. That is not me. Okay. It's the pot calling the kettle black. Or actually, it wasn't even the pot calling the kettle black. It was the pot calling what's white, the cloud black. I wasn't black, but he was projecting that on me. Right. So that was a countering, just flat out, no, didn't happen. You're crazy. Right. Withholding. So withholding is when someone refuses to engage in a conversation. So a person using this technique may pretend they didn't hear you. They may pretend not to understand, right? So they don't have to respond, right? So they're not willing to engage. So they can say, well, I don't know what you're talking about, or you're just making that up, or you're just trying to confuse me. Well, no, I'm confronting you on something that really happened, and they're just not willing, so they're diffusing it and withholding and withdrawing from the conversation so they don't have to be confronted. Um, they can trivialize. This is a very common one. So this occurs when a person belittles or disregards the other person's feelings, right? So they may accuse them of being, you're just oversensitive. You just make things up. You just are over dramatic. You just overreact, right? When there are valid concerns and feelings. So I had a client, actually, it wasn't a client, it was actually a patient at the time because I was in the ER. I was moonlighting in the ER, and this little boy came in, and it was horrible. He had literally a dog had attacked his face, so it was nasty. And the only thing this little boy was worried about is how his dad was going to react. It was so upsetting. You could tell it was such an abusive situation because the concern was that you're overreactive. You did this wrong. And these are valid. Listen, when a dog bites my face, it is valid, right? But when I'm being accused of being over dramatic or sensitive, or I'm in trouble because I mishandled the dog, instead of, honey, let's take care of your face. Let's figure out what to do with the dog. You know, that little boy was being gaslighted about the validity of his feelings. I had another client as a boy who broke his arm, and he was supposed to be mowing the lawn, and instead of saying, oh no, you hurt your arm, just let's get it fixed, let's get it taken care of, and oh, by all means, don't mow the, no, they said he was trivializing it, so the little boy mowed the entire lawn with a broken arm because his predicament was being trivialized. So he had this cognitive dissonance of, my arm really hurts. I think there's something wrong with it. No, you're just blowing it. You're just making it, right? So he was being gaslighted, right? And it's so tragic. So I'm going to call it quits for this particular, for part one of gaslighting. And then we're going to pick it up next time for gaslighting part two. I hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you, Brother Henry, for allowing me to share. And I hope you guys have an amazing day. Bye bye.